Welcome to the Thoughtful Leader podcast. My name is Ben Brearley. I'm a leadership coach and the founder of Thoughtful Leader. The Thoughtful Leader podcast is all about short, sharp leadership advice because thoughtful leadership is good leadership. Welcome to episode 282 of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. In this episode, I'm going to look at a common Thoughtful Leader topic, which is about feeling more confident without being the loudest person in the room. So how do you build that confidence? Even if you're not the loudest leader going around, it can be a challenge for thoughtful leaders. So let's get into this topic right now. So this is a really common challenge for thoughtful leaders. How do I build confidence or feel more confident without needing to change who I am and be a lot louder than I am? Because thoughtful leaders are often quieter, more introverted types, and they're quite thoughtful and introspective, and we bring a lot of strengths to the table, but we do feel a certain pressure to feel louder when actually maybe we shouldn't be. So the first thing I would suggest here is a starting point is to analyze your own thought patterns here. So the first thing is to reframe and let go of the shoulds that you're carrying around in your head. So what I mean by this, the shoulds are a real dangerous thing. Now the shoulds, as I call them, they're the times in your life and leadership where you find yourself going, well, I should be more like that, or I should have done this, or I should speak up more, or I should be more outgoing. Oh, look at that person over there. They're really great and confident. I should be more like that. And these should sit in our heads and on our shoulders, really weighing us down because they're expectations that often no one has told us these things, but we go along with them as if they are real, that they're facts. Actually, that's not really true necessarily. So what I also want you to do is reframe the thinking here. So just because maybe you're not the loudest person in the room, maybe you're introverted, introspective, and thoughtful, which are all good things, you want to reframe what leadership really is. Is being a quiet leader a bad thing? Well, I guess in some situations it could be, but in other situations it's a very big strength. So for example, pick out the positives of being a quiet leader. You don't speak when you don't need to. You are thoughtful and you listen a lot more. You are able to reflect, and your introspective nature helps you to improve as you analyze situations. And it also gives a sense of calm and consideration to your team, I find. People know that you're a bit more restrained. Often thoughtful leaders are quite calm, and as a result, they give a sense of calm to their teams, because if I'm not stressed and flustered, then my team don't have to worry. Or if I'm not exploding in a fit of rage, then my team know that I've got things under control and I'm quite a safe pair of hands, as they call it. So you want to do a bit of reframing about what you think leadership is. And yes, this world of ours is quite extroverted, but there is a big place for thoughtful and more quiet leadership. And that's obviously what I'm here to help you with. The second thing I would recommend here is identify your strengths. Now you, as a thoughtful leader, you would have some common strengths and I'm just going to guess at a couple. So my strengths, for example, let's just focus on me for a second. My strengths are I'm very good with routines and discipline. So for example, I exercise a lot during the week. I always stick to that stuff. I plan things so I'm ready to go. I'm prepared for meetings. I'm dependable. I basically live my life in such a way that I'm quite structured, and it helps me show up the way I want to show up and be calm and not get too stressed. So one of my big routines is that discipline and routine focus that I have that helps me become prepared and dependable. So it's just one of mine. So you've obviously got your own strengths as well, which could be, well, I'm a great listener, or I provide a safe space for my team, all these sort of good things. You want to identify your strengths, and reflection can help you do that in terms of thinking about situations you've had and how you positively contributed to that situation as well. So I want you to think about your strengths and list them all down. You can also use some assessments like Gallup's or Clifton's Strengths, which is a great assessment where you fill out a big survey and it gives you quite a detailed report of what your strengths might be. Those sort of assessments can be quite good as well to try out. So you can search for those online. And last time I checked, it wasn't very expensive. You can do it by yourself. You don't really have to have a company sponsoring you or a consultant involved necessarily. So all those sort of options are good for identifying your strengths, and so you can remember them. But I do want to remind you here as a thoughtful leader listening that sometimes you're going to have to be loud. Sometimes you're going to have to interrupt someone who won't shut up. Sometimes you're going to have to run the meeting. Sometimes you're going to have to be on show and you're going to have to speak up if you're going to get your point across. And that's not to say that we want to do that all the time, because if you do that all the time, if you flex your style to become more extroverted too often when you're not like that normally, then you will find yourself very fatigued and tired. And I deliver a lot of training, and I like delivering training, but by the end of the day, I'm pretty knackered. It is quite exhausting. So I don't want to be doing that all the time. And as a result, I structure my month or my week so that I'm not delivering 5 days of training, for example, because I would be exhausted. So you've got to work on understanding your own energy levels, making sure you maintain the introverted side of yourself as much as you can, but you've got to be able to work on those skills that help you be more extroverted. So in last week's episode, there was a Q&A on speaking up more in meetings, so you can go back to episode 281 and listen to that as well. You can look at public speaking skills, difficult conversation skills, all those sorts of things will help you to become more extroverted and to get your point across when you need to, because it's an extroverted world out there. So we can't pretend that we can just be an introvert all the time and it's all going to be fine. If you want to have an impact and influence your workplace and the world, then you're going to have to be more extroverted sometimes, not all the time. So another thing you can do to build confidence without needing to be super loud is just to put yourself in situations where you need to stretch yourself a little bit. So I remember years ago when I started one of my first jobs, I wrote on my CV that I'd like to accept a leadership position at some point. And they took my application and I was just going to be a software developer at that point. But I said, yeah, I'd like to be in a leadership position eventually. On the very first day, on the very first morning of that job, the boss brings me into his office and says, hey, I noticed you said you want to do leadership stuff. Do you want to do that now? And I said, yeah, okay. And I took on that opportunity and I had no idea what I was doing in terms of I'd never led a team before. I was about 22 years old and I had no experience. I had no formal training in leadership. No one had told me how to manage anyone. But the guy just said, hey, do you want to I'll give you this opportunity. And I took it. I didn't take it because I felt super confident. I took it because I'd already put myself out there and said that I wanted the opportunity. And it meant that I was more likely to commit when that opportunity came along. So I said yes, and I just went with it. So what I'm sort of indicating here is if you know you need to improve in a certain area, you want to build your confidence, I would say try to put yourself in situations where you will be stretched. So for example, you might go, well, I'm really not confident giving presentations, but I know I should improve that skill. So one thing I'd suggest is volunteer to give a presentation in a month. And then you can go, well, this month is coming, and yes, you can prepare for it before that month and the end of the month. But what it does is it means you've made a commitment and you're more likely to show up and honor that commitment. So putting yourself in situations where you volunteer for opportunities, put yourself forward, even if you don't feel super confident, is a really important thing. And just remember also that confidence comes from doing things. It doesn't come before you do things. So for example, going back to my own experience, I was in management roles at the same time when I was writing leadership articles for Thoughtful Leader years ago. So I started this business, I started writing about 11 years ago, I think it was now. Do you think I felt confident putting my writing in the world back then? Absolutely not. But I just did it anyway because I felt like I wanted to get my voice out there and make an impact. But I felt really insecure about putting my opinions out there, especially in the leadership space. Because, you've got the imposter syndrome where you think people are looking at you and going, oh, who's this guy? Who's he to put this opinion out there? What makes him think he's so good? All that stuff. But over time, I've built confidence because I've got good responses from my articles and that sort of stuff. And the act of doing the work, though, has given me the confidence. I didn't feel confident and then decide to do the work. So remember that confidence is a result. It's not a requirement for doing something. So that's the last thing I'll leave you with today. Remember that confidence is a result. It's not a requirement for doing the thing. So hopefully these ideas have helped you in the area of building confidence. If you think you need to be more confident and you're not the loudest or most extroverted leader in the room. If you want to sign up for my Thoughtful Leader newsletter, you can get access to all my episodes and articles when they come out, and also some additional resources as we go along. And you can do that by signing up and getting the Thoughtful Leader Survival Guide as well, which is a really good resource with 5 excellent tools to help you try to improve your leadership and feel more confident as a thoughtful leader. You can do that on the show notes page, thoughtfulleader.com/282. So I look forward to seeing you as part of the newsletter. Of course, if you think I could help you one-to-one, I work with a lot of thoughtful leaders in one-to-one coaching, so you can also get in touch on that show notes page as well. And very lastly, if you like this episode or the podcast in general, I would love you to leave a positive rating on your podcast app of choice. It helps me get the word out, and spread the word to all the thoughtful leaders out there who could benefit from listening to some of my stuff. So thank you once again for listening, and I will be back next time.